In terms of Savinho, a lot of people have been wondering what is going on with Savinho. We heard with Savinho, once Enzo Maresca gets announced, maybe some dominoes could fall. The only update we have on Savinho is the Mail reporting that Tottenham will need to meet Manchester City's 60 million plus valuation of Savinho. I mean, when you're talking about spending 100 on Tonali, 85 on Fernandes, I mean, over 60 million pounds on Savinho does seem a bit excessive.
Yeah, I've always said I think 60 is a bit much. I think 45 to 50 is probably the sweet spot right now for Savinho, considering his stock is probably a bit lower than it was a year ago when they were demanding similar fee to that. So it kind of all depends how much does Maresca rate him. Maybe Maresca wants to take a look at him before, selling him. Maybe he thinks he's got some value, or maybe not. And I think that maybe that decision, that might need, because I don't know when they're going to start pre-season or whatever, or players going to be back, but maybe that might take a few weeks to determine. I think it might have been actually it might have been more worth it for us to try and get this deal done before Maresca came in, just so we could kind of, because Man City at that point seemed to be willing, and it seemed as though if we could have got a deal agreed before Maresca got in, that avoids any doubt. But now Maresca's there, we have to kind of wait, and Maresca might have his own ideas. So let's see. I think 60 million is a bit excessive. But then again, who do we go for if we pull out Savinho? And obviously we need more Savinho plus another one. I'm not saying there's not. There are wingers out there, don't get me wrong, but I think Savinho is a really good talent, and I do want him at Tottenham. So if he doesn't want him, I think that we could get that price down.
You say there are other wingers out there, but someone just said in the comments, have you seen the winger market? Like, the winger market, it ain't that great.
I mean, look at the World Cup. I mean, there's not like tons of great wingers, are there?
You look at the Premier League alone, right? Just look at the Premier League. Who are the top left wingers in the Premier League?
The top left wingers in the Premier League, Doku.
Yeah, like outside of the top teams, like that attainable. Like, we're not going to sign Doku. We're not going to sign a player from Man City apart from Savinho. If you're going to sign a player from a top team, he's got to be out of favour, right? So who are the top left wingers, like outside of the teams that we're unattainable from, like Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool? Like, you're talking about Gakpo.
Yeah, Rashford.
Savinho,
maybe.
Rashford. Who else is there? Yeah.
Schade.
You know what I mean?
Talking about Rodgers, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about Premier League, but yeah. I mean, there's obviously...
even outside of the Premier League, like, who is there that really is convincing?
It depends on your scouting. Your scouting's good enough. There's always players, but, that's the big question, isn't it, with our scouting? It's not great.
Yeah, but usually, like, there's players you could think of off the top of your head when you're thinking about players you can bring in, but there's not many.
El Mala.
El Mala.
Said El Mala. Rafael Leao. I mean, yeah, it's tough. Kinsky bomber, something happened. Anyway. No, I get your point. But look, yeah, you go, we just announced it. I get your point. The market is tough, especially in the Premier League, which is part of the reason I do want Savinho at Tottenham. I just think 60 million is a bit of an overpayment, but I mean, I think we can get that price down. I'm not saying I wouldn't go for him for 60. I'm just saying it's a bit of an overpayment.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Lucas Bergvall. Interesting reports on him. DiMarzio saying that Tottenham are reportedly refusing to accept less than 50 million euros for Lucas Bergvall. Tottenham recently rejected an offer from an English club, which is likely Nottingham Forest, and I don't think they'll go below that threshold. It's always going to take 50 million euros or more, or above 50 million euros. Napoli, who are among the most interested teams in Italy, have made an effort to understand and thought perhaps at the most they could land him for about 40 million euros. However, John Percy has said that Tottenham's stance on Lucas Bergvall is that he's not for sale. De Zerbi and Lange are both understood to have held talks with the midfielder to assure him he's part of the club's future plans.
Which is quite interesting.
It's interesting, but obviously, I don't know. I think if a bid, worthy of them accepting, like he says, above 50 million, I think we'll probably accept it. But I'd prefer to keep Bergvall and maybe loan him out for the next year or two.
I do wonder if that's currently our stance until there's actual movement with Tonali and Fernandes and whoever, because you don't want to sell him and then not get the other targets and left running around trying to get someone who's as good as Bergvall essentially. So I think maybe...
Or could it be because something's broken down behind the scenes?
I mean, it could be. Absolutely could be. I think it would be. I think right now, unless it depends how confident we are.
When are you going to see in the press? Well, when they first come back for pre-season, you can say De Zerbi's been blown away by Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray in training.
Exactly. It won't be long. It won't be long. Look, we've all obviously spoken about how much we think of Bergvall, how highly we rate him as a talent. So I'm not going to sit here and say I don't want him to stay, because obviously I do, and I like the update in a way, but I do get the feeling that's going to be the current stance. And I think as a club, it will be the stance, because you're obviously trying to get the highest offer, and it's not like the end of the world if you end up keeping. I think obviously the thing for Bergvall is he wants to leave to get more game time. That's the main thing. I don't think Tottenham are like desperate to sell him. Obviously we do need to raise funds from somewhere, and there has to be some movement to fit all these players in. I get that. I'm not necessarily saying it has to be Bergvall, but I'm saying I think obviously as a club we rate him. We think he's a really talented player and we would like to keep him. But Bergvall himself, he wants to leave to get more minutes and develop as a player. And now the fact that he wants to leave probably Tottenham look at the situation and think, okay, we want to keep you, but if you're really pushing to leave, you're not happy here, and we're getting these other players, we are open to letting you go for a really good fee because we still really rate you. But right now we haven't got those guys over the line, have we? The Tonali and Fernandes and whatever, and we have to wait and see what happens with that. So right now, I think that stance makes sense. He's not for sale unless a ridiculous offer does come in. Right now, we're not going to sell because obviously, once we do sign those players, it probably lowers the price potentially and weakens our negotiation, because people will probably know he's more available. But until that happens, he's our player, and I think that's probably the right stance. And look, I for one hope he stays in the long term, and I hope, I would love it if he's battling out with Fernandes and with Tonali for a starting spot, and I think that would be the perfect scenario. But it might not be the perfect scenario for Bergvall, unfortunately. Maybe more for Tottenham.
Look, someone like Bergvall needs to be playing consistently. We saw last year how it stunted his development. And look, I think it was more the positions that he was being utilised in more than the game time he was getting, actually. But the older he gets, the more game time he just needs game time, and I just don't think that's available for him at Spurs next season. So,
although, what's his name? Who did it? Percy. He's claiming that they have given him assurances, but I don't know what assurances they can give him.
They said he gave them assurances that he's part of the future plans. Doesn't mean he's part of the immediate plans.
I think I read also like minutes and assurances on minutes next season or something.
I didn't read that, but maybe you're right. And I think he should be part of the club's future plans. And I would love to see him get a significant amount of game time next season. But how is that going to look? If we are going to bring in Tonali and Fernandes, we've got Conor Gallagher there as well. We've got Sarr, who's might be potentially leaving as well. We've got so many midfielders at the club. We've got Archie Gray. Where are these minutes going to come from? We've got no European football. Unless there's a mad injury crisis, like when's he going to start games? In the Cups?
I mean, obviously, hopefully, even though there's one game week, you still need to use your squad, especially in the current game midfield. So, he might be coming on. I know Tonali's got an unbelievable engine, and to be fair, so does Fernandes. But it's a long season, and he, I think it's more of a squad game than ever, isn't it? So there'll be probably lots of games he's coming on the hour. Lots of games maybe he even gets to start if he proves himself. I'm not saying he's going to get as many minutes as maybe he did in that first season. I wouldn't say he's never going to play. He's only going to play the Cups. I wouldn't say that. But is that enough for him? He probably wants to start 25, 30 games. That's probably where his head's at, and that's obviously not going to be possible.
If he was going to stay next season, I'd envisage 10 starts in the Premier League next season, something like that.
Yeah,
and that's probably being generous. So he needs to be starting a lot more games than that, 100%. I would try and convince him to go out on loan. I'm sure there's a Premier League club that would take him on loan for next season. I'm certain of it, with what he's shown so far. So that would be my main priority to try to do with Lucas Bergvall next season.
But I also understand if we do get a bit of 50-odd million and we're getting these other players in.
We've had euros, not
Well,
pounds.
euros, I'm saying. But if we get one, for pounds, and then we are getting these other two players, or even if not them specifically them, like someone of that ilk, getting two of them, then I can understand the club's position saying, look, if he really wants to go, we'll take that money and we'll have to just move on, and that's it. But I'd rather we didn't. I'd rather keep him here and develop him ourselves, and hopefully he can really, especially when we're in Europe, he really becomes a key figure for us.
And also, the added aspect of it, him and Archie Gray become homegrown players next season. And that is a massive value to us if we keep them around next season. They have to stay at the club. They can't go out on loan for that to happen. So if Bergvall and Gray, and then hopefully back in Europe next season, that'll be because if they don't stay, then next season we're in that predicament again where we don't have any club-trained players. Pretty much Brandon Austin, and that's it. So, yeah, there's that aspect as well, where it's a massive value to keeping him, not just for his footballing ability, but squad building as well.
It's true. It's absolutely right. So it's going to be interesting how this one develops. I really hope it doesn't end with him leaving permanently. I really hope that's not how it ends.
Because I think from Spurs' point of view, they're like, well, we've done the hard yards of giving him minutes when he was like 18, 19 in the Premier League, in a view of, building him up, getting him ready to be a top player in a few years' time, and to be club trained for next season. And then if he goes the year before that actually happens, I can see that's why this club don't want to sell him.
But on the flip side, if you sign someone, an 18-year-old for 8 million, and sell him 2 years later for 50, that's also pretty successful, isn't it?
It is successful. But then it does put us in the shit when we do our club building for next season.
Yeah.
Or squad building. Archie Gray, there's an update on him. Team Talk claiming that Tottenham have no plans to let Archie Gray leave this summer, despite the ongoing midfield rebuild. Spurs view the 20-year-old as a key part of the club's long-term project, with the player also fully committed to staying in North London. Interest from elsewhere is not expected to change their stance. And do you reckon Archie could look at, Lucas and be like, well, if he's not going to get game time, how am I going to get game time?
Well, if he leaves, it ups his chances, doesn't it? Also, I think Archie is probably a little bit less worried about that, just because he's so much more versatile. So there's going to be more opportunities. But we know that Gray
is there though, because he got a lot of opportunities in the back line. The back line's fully stocked now. The back line wasn't stocked when he was getting minutes there.
Yeah, I guess depends who's going to be here by the end of the summer. Yeah, I mean, you're right. There is a lot more options now, so it lessens the need for Gray to play in those positions. But still, you might get a couple of injuries at right back, and then you put him in there. You might get a couple of injuries left back or whatever. So there's still. My point being is he can fit in there. Bergvall can't. So naturally, there probably is going to be a few more opportunities to fill in those positions. When it comes to midfield, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, it's interesting because the players we're linked with are not really. You wouldn't class them as like defensive midfielders, would you? Whereas that's where Gray positions himself. We've got Bentancur.
Gray actually, he's come out and said his favourite position is number 8.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's more of a. He is a number 8, but he's more of kind of like. I think he's. Well, how I see Gray, he's kind of more of a defensive player than he is an attacking player. That's just kind of how I see him. That's where he seems to excel the best in his defensive work, I would say.
I'd say he's good on the ball as well, though.
Yeah, defensive player doesn't mean bad on the ball. It just means, I think, where his focus usually is defensively. That's where he usually does his best stuff. You don't really see him too much. I mean, he did all right when he was playing a light fullback and against final third. He did some good things, but you don't really say, he doesn't take too many shots. He doesn't play too many killer balls, or he doesn't seem so creative in the final third, anything like that. But he seems to have great positional sense. He does great slide tackles. He's great at reading the game. All those kind of stuff. So off the ball is, defensively, that's where he seems to excel. So I do wonder whether if we sign Fernandes and Tonali, is it going to be maybe Bentancur and Gray rotating in one? Obviously, we want to see Tonali and Fernandes together. We could play 4-3-3. And with 3 in the middle, and then Gray could be an option. I also think Gray is going to get a lot of minutes coming off the bench, in certain games. He's a very good tactical tool. So obviously he looks at Bergvall, and he probably also has those reservations. But I also think Gray is just naturally going to have more options to play than Bergvall.
Look, I just want to keep both of these guys around. I believe in both of them so much. And again, I bring it back to the squad building for next season. Both of these guys are club trained, and you can't underestimate the value of that for when we're back in Europe next season. So I think it's important to keep both of them around. However, if one of them wants to leave, or if they want to leave, I don't think you can stand in their way, because first of all, you get a big fee for them, and second of all, I just don't think it's right to hold a player against their will, especially like a young player that needs minutes. I think you're just hampering their development and holding them back. I just don't think there's a need for it.
Well, it depends. If you think as much as they want to leave and they're getting frustrated, you might think, look, might think you have other plans for them, and he's still your player. If you believe in them, then you I think within all right. Like, for example, Sonny wanted to leave, didn't he? And we ended up convincing him to stay, or we ended up keeping him, and he wanted to go, but that turned out for the better. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because a player wants.
Situation though.
I mean, he wanted
signing players in Sonny's position. You know, Sonny was he was supposed to be a main guy. You know, Gray and Bergvall are young players, and we're signing players ahead of them now, and we even signed players ahead of them in January. So I think it's a completely different situation.
Yeah, I guess. I hear what you're saying, but it's up to. I think we have to make that judgment. Is it worth keeping them around for us? I mean, we have to think about us first, and then it's not about being fair to them. They're still 20. They're still very young. They've got a lot of years ahead of them. If we think we can use them, and they're good enough to play for us, we should keep them.
Yeah, we'll just keep them, but their value is only going to go down if we don't play them.
Of course.
And
we have to be of use to them. We have to play them.
Or for them or for us, if we keep them around and don't play them. You know?
Obviously, that's true. But my point being is even if they're worried about their game time, if you're certain about it, keep them.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Then some other midfielders would have to leave, like Bentancur would probably have to leave. You know, other players.
We're already talking about Sarr leaving.
Sarr, you know, these guys have to leave. If you want to do it, then you've got to put Archie Gray and Bergvall as the immediate backups. I don't see another way of them getting minutes.
I think it's a squad game. They'll get minutes, but it's whether as many minutes as they would like. Look, there's only with no Europe, there's only a certain amount of minutes, but it's only 1 year as well. Hopefully, obviously, and then maybe if you don't get in Europe again, maybe you reassess
these
it.
Are such important years for players of that age. You know, they need to be playing to continue their development. And I can see where Bergvall's coming from 100%.
Oh, of course. I don't disagree with that at all. I think Gray's a bit different, because I think Gray, he will get minutes, I think, regardless. He just always seems to. And I think there's so many more injuries now in football. I think it's so much more of a squad game. You just need to, as well, you need players like Gray who can fill in different positions.
Let's talk about Mikey Moore. Alistair Gold did an article before, and he said a queue of clubs from both England and across Europe have lined up, all looking to take the teenager next season, either permanently or on loan. Spurs are not interested in selling Mikey Moore this summer, despite the Spurs, the squad overhaul currently being undertaken with likely sales, and De Zerbi wants to take a closer look at the talented teen in pre-season when players return to Hotspur Way on July the 10th. The Italian will then make a decision whether to keep the youngster involved in the first team set up for the first half of the season, or if with a lack of fixtures ahead at Tottenham due to the absence of European football, it is better to allow him on another loan spell elsewhere to ensure he starts week in, week out to continue the development that he had in Scotland. So it'll be interesting to see where De Zerbi sees Mikey Moore. I do think that it will be another loan spell, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how he comes out over the summer, because I remember, when was it? Obviously, it's a different situation, but I remember hearing, who was it? There was someone talking about Gareth Bale, and he said there was one summer where he went from just being like this little scrawny kid who was getting shuffled off the ball, and he came back like he was a rugby player. And I'm not saying Mikey Moore is going to have that extent of a transformation, but it's going to be interesting to see if he does do some work over the summer a bit physically. We know he's got the talent. We know he's good enough, technically probably, to be playing in the Premier League. The big question mark is physically. Can he hold players off? Can he make sure he's not getting bullied off the ball all the time? And right now there's a big question mark about that. But let's say he does some relevant work over the summer, and he comes into pre-season and really impresses, then maybe he can surprise some people. I think if we get the Mikey Moore we saw at Rangers, he's probably still going to go on loan. He still needs to be even better than that to be part of the first team. But we'll see. We'll see how he comes back over the summer. And we know with young players as well, they can change very quickly. They can develop physically quite quickly as well. So it can kind of happen at any time, but it might not happen just yet.
If that does happen,
Yeah.
we don't need to sign him.
Potentially.
Two left wingers, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to keep him around and him to show that he's good enough. And I'd love to have an academy player. Again, I've missed it since Kane's gone and stuff, and we haven't had that in the team or a regular player. So I'd love to have that again. So let's see what De Zerbi thinks of him. Let's see if he's ready or not. Either way, I think long term, hopefully he'll be part of the plans. Whether it be a loan deal this summer or not, we'll see. But my gut's telling me maybe it's going to be a bit too soon. Yes, as it says on screen, still only 18, still so young. But who knows? Maybe he can surprise some people.
Next up, we've got an update regarding Manor Solomon, the forgotten man at Spurs. Corriere dello Sport saying that Fiorentina remain interested in signing Manor Solomon permanently, but Tottenham would need to slash their €10 million asking price by half for a deal to become feasible. Spurs are understood to be open to negotiating the valuation. I mean, you see there on Transfer Market, he's valued at 8 million. I think, Spurs will probably have to go like 4 or 5 million for it, and maybe even that's a bit too much.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because after the Leeds loan, we were thinking there should be lots of clubs looking at him. And maybe we just demanded too much. I think it was 20 million at the time, which didn't seem outrageous when we were talking about it. But maybe once it won the just championship, level, maybe we should have been more willing to go to like 10 or something like that, or 15, because he struggled to get a move. Leeds didn't even sign him back for that. So yeah, maybe that was a misstep how we handled his departure that summer. But I think it's time for him to move on.
Yeah, because Leeds were actually wanting him back. They were in negotiations with us, but we basically outpriced them with a move.
Yeah,
that's what
and
happened.
That was a massive mistake, wasn't it, in hindsight? Yeah. So we're not going to get any of the fee. I think he's obviously, potentially, he's worth a lot more than what we're going to sell him for. But it is what it is. It's been a few years now.
Isn't it? It's
true, we did sign him on a free, yeah. No, I think there was obviously he's a good player in there. But I just think circumstances have led to us going to have to basically give him away for a really cheap fee, probably a lot less than we would have liked to. But
yeah, his stock was at the highest after that Leeds loan.
Yeah, probably
could have got about 10 million for him then, but we wanted 20. Mm-hmm. And now we want 10, and the team's are only willing to pay 5.
Yeah.
So, I think he'll go. Don't know where he'll go, but Fiorentina and Paratici want to take him off our hands. So go for it. And there's just been some breaking news on the Spurs official accounts. Antonin Kinsky has officially signed his new contract. As you can see him here, talking to camera. Lovely stuff. He's got a nice little tan about him, Mr. Tonda Kinsky.
Hello Spurs fans, it's Tony Kinsky here. I'm so happy to sign my new contract at Spurs and to extend my stay. Last season we experienced a lot of emotions, a lot of positive emotions eventually. And
a lot more to come. Come on, Kinsky.
Definitely a lot more to come, because we will make sure that there is a lot more to come. So
I'm delighted for him.
See you next season.
The right,
come on, you Spurs.
Tony Kinsky to be the #1 next season. Fantastic news, in my opinion. And you saw his confidence growing ever since being in the team, and now he's got that contract. He's pretty much been made #1. Probably have the #1 on the back of his jersey as well. That confidence is going to skyrocket, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well, the fact that he performed in such a high pressure situation will, because hopefully, it's not going to be that high pressure all the time, is it? Battling relegation. So I think
hopefully it'll be high pressure in a different way.
Yeah, of course. But when I always think the pressure relegation, that's always probably the highest form of pressure. And
especially for us.
well, if you can come in that situation, especially after what happened in Atletico, in Madrid, and if you can perform in that situation, then that will show that will give him so much confidence. He'll feel invincible, and I think De Zerbi's looked at that, seen what he can do. Probably also looked at the price of keepers at the moment for that would have to pay, and seen seen his character, seen how his quality as well, and thought, you know what, this guy is willing to give him a shot and it's worth investing in. And I'm delighted for him. Very few players come back from that kind of thing that happened to him, and especially in that moment, especially given that he wasn't given a chance before, got his chance, and then that happened and had to come back from that. So having come through all he's come through, hopefully the only way is up. You know what I mean? Hopefully it only gets easier for him.
I think so. And if it goes right for him next season, we've got a number one there for like the next 10 years, literally. So that's why I always thought like there was no point spending big money on a goalkeeper with what he's shown in the last 7 games of the season, not just in goalkeeping, but mental strength as well. It's a massive aspect of being goalkeeper, your mental strength.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think he's shown that in abundance after coming back from Atletico. So I thought it was always right. Give him the number 1 jersey, let him prove himself over the course of this season. And then, if it's not right, we'll reassess it next summer. But for now, he's earned the right and he's earned the shirt.
Yeah, I do wonder in different circumstances, would we have given him the number 1 shirt, or was he always destined for it? For example, if the squad was in a different place, if we didn't have as many holes to plug as we do, would we have pushed the boat out and got over Bruggen or something? Or is it, or would we have given him the number 1 regardless, of the situation? So yeah, those are obviously questions. There are still question marks about him in terms of certain things, but look, he is a young keeper. I'm confident that he can really improve on what happened last season, and I'm just delighted for him. I really am. I think it's a real heartwarming kind of journey and story that's happened last season, and I really hope he goes from strength to strength. We all know, I think we can all see there is a good keeper in there.
I mean, that's like one of the biggest turnarounds I've seen from that game at Atletico to now.
Yeah.
Crazy. So big up to Anton and Kinsky. Brand new bumper contract, long-term contract, and hopefully he'll be our number 1 for many years to come.
There's some quotes you want to...
Oh, the quotes.
Some quotes from Johan and De Zerbi.
Well, the quotes from Antonin is, "I'm so happy and I can feel the trust from the club. When I joined 18 months ago, my expectations were to fight for my place in the team and to wear this shirt every week. It's been a real journey to get here and a nice story already, and I'm looking forward to what lies ahead over the next months and years. Everyone around the club feels that we can have a successful season, and I want to contribute to that. We want to give the fans what they want and what the club deserves." Johan Lang says, "From the moment we identified Tony as a target, we were convinced he had the qualities, character and mentality to become an important player for the club. We've been delighted with the way he has adapted over the past 18 months, both on and off the pitch, and this contract reflects our confidence in the continued development. Tony has an outstanding work ethic, a strong desire to improve on the attributes required to perform at the highest level. Securing his long-term future is an important step for us, and we're excited to see him fulfill the potential we believe he possesses." And De Zerbi says, "Tony was outstanding over the final 7 games of the season and a key part of what we achieved over that period. I'm delighted he has committed his future to the club. He has earned his new contract, not only with his performances, but also with his professionalism and desire to improve. We have a huge belief in what Tony can become. He is still young, has an enormous potential, and I know that Spurs is the perfect place for him to continue to develop into one of the best goalkeepers in Europe." And then it just talks about his history. So, yeah.
Big words there. One of the best goalkeepers in Europe. I mean, obviously, let's hope, it's big. That's going to give him confidence, and that's obviously big words from De Zerbi to say that.
I think he does have the attributes to do it. I mean, at 23 years of age, you talk about how comfortable he is on the ball. His shot stopping is obviously dramatically improved. I would say, his even claiming his crosses, I think he looks strong in that aspect. His positioning, needs work for sure. But I think every other metric and every other aspect he seems to be performing well at right now.
And to be fair, it's, especially earlier in the season, because we were judging him quite harshly. I remember the Newcastle game, came in the Carabao and struggled, got beaten in the air by Voltemada and stuff. And then obviously the Atletico game, he came in, and what happened there, we know. But it can be quite hard for a keeper to when they're just coming in here and there to really impress, and it puts a lot of pressure on them. But he proved, give him a bit of a stretch of games and give him trust to be that number one, and he showed what he can do. And he showed that how much he has improved. Because you remember, as we were talking about last season, when he came in January, he obviously had that very good game against Liverpool, and he had some other good games, but a lot of the time there was some soft goals going in, and he also showed there's a lot of things he has to improve on to become number one here. But he also showed some potential. But I think he's already shown in those 7 games how much he's improved from that level, and that's all you can really ask for. And he's shown that level of improvement year on year, and that shows how good, how he has developed. So that maybe when you take that into account, he can develop even a lot more, playing even more regularly, and that's how much he's developed not playing that regularly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think his style of goalkeeping is just much more suited to us as well. Now we've got Roberto De Zerbi at the helm, so yeah, massive props to Anthony Kinsky, what he's achieved so far at Spurs, and hopefully he goes from strength to strength.